Welcome to today's video. We're exploring the dangerous fallout of lying during naturalization and how it can jeopardize a spouse's IR-1 visa and even your own citizenships. We will move step by step, starting with the scenario, then defining material misrepresentation, and finally examining the real-world consequences and safer next moves. Let's begin. Here's our roadmap. First, we set the scene. Next, we define material misrepresentation. Then, we analyze the immediate danger to the IR-1 petition and the broader legal stakes. Afterward, we debunk harmful myths, outline safer first steps, and close with key takeaways and a couple of quick quizzes to test your understanding. Before anything else, a vital disclaimer. This content is educational and informational only. It is not legal advice, nor does it create an attorney-client relationship. Everyone's facts differ, and immigration laws are complex. Always consult a qualified immigration attorney before taking any action. With that in mind, let's proceed. Now to the scenario. A person becomes a U.S. citizen after claiming to be single during naturalization, even though they were legally married. Shortly afterward, they attempt to file an IR-1 petition for their spouse. This creates a direct conflict between sworn statements to the government and the marriage certificate timeline. Let's define why this is not a small error but a significant legal issue. Let's define material misrepresentation. It occurs when someone lies about a fact that is significant enough to influence an immigration decision. Claiming to be single when legally married is a classic example, because marital status is central to multiple eligibility determinations, including good moral character assessments and potential tax implications. When the lie is intentional, it can be treated as fraud. Therefore, this is not a minor clerical issue, but a material false statement with serious consequences. Next, we will connect this definition to the IR-1 petition risk. This flowchart traces the path from the initial false statement in the naturalization process through the filing of the IR-1 petition. At the document cross-check stage, authorities compare the marriage certificate dates with prior sworn statements on the N400 and during the interview. A discrepancy triggers two risky branches: attempting concealment, which escalates fraud risk and likely denial with potential criminal referral, or disclosure with explanation, which may open the door to denaturalization proceedings and criminal exposure. In both branches, the spouse's petition is jeopardized, and the petitioner's citizenship integrity is at risk. Now let's zoom in on why the IR-1 is immediately endangered. The IR-1 filing requires that all dates and documents line up. Here, the marriage certificate conflicts with the prior sworn statements in the naturalization process. Submitting the spouse petition in effect admits the earlier falsehood. From there, the petitioner faces a choice between filing and hoping the government overlooks the discrepancy, which is highly unlikely, or acknowledging the lie and trying to explain, which exposes them to serious legal consequences. Practically, the case will likely be flagged, prompting requests for evidence, notices of intent to deny, and possibly referrals for further investigation. Next, we will quantify the stakes. Here is a comparison of disclosure versus concealment. Disclosure demonstrates present honesty but acknowledges past fraud, which can trigger denaturalization and criminal liability and will likely lead to denial of the spouse petition. Concealment continues the deception, adding layers of fraud. Given government file cross-checks, discovery is likely, and outcomes can include felony charges and permanent immigration consequences. Overall, neither path is good, but concealment often results in the worst long-term outcome. Next, let's visualize the timeline conflict that typically reveals the problem. This timeline shows the legal marriage date occurring before the naturalization filing and interview where the applicant claimed to be single. The oath ceremony follows, finalizing citizenship. When the IR-1 is later filed, officers naturally cross-check the marriage certificate against prior statements, revealing the conflict between the marriage date and the sworn answers about marital status. This chronological mismatch is central to the government's fraud analysis. Next, we will detail the legal stakes. The most severe outcome is denaturalization, where citizenship is revoked when it was obtained by fraud or concealment of a material fact. Immigration fraud is also a federal crime, where intent plays a key role. Potential consequences include loss of citizenship, exposure to removal, fines, and imprisonment. The spouse's visa can also face permanent denial if the government concludes that fraud tainted the petition. Now we will debunk some common myths that often worsen the situation. This table outlines common comparison points. USCIS compares N400 marital status answers against marriage records to assess material misrepresentation. During the IR-1 process, officers compare the marriage certificate against prior N400 statements to detect contradictions and potential fraud. Tax records may reveal a mismatch between actual marital status and declared filing status, which can weigh on moral character assessments. Background checks also look for patterns of deception across filings. Now let's address myths that can tempt people into compounding the problem. First myth: getting remarried with a new date. You cannot legally remarry someone you are already married to. And attempting to procure a new certificate with false information is a new and separate fraud. Additional lies do not repair previous misrepresentations. They only compound criminal exposure and make resolution harder. The only constructive focus is addressing the underlying fraud risk with appropriate legal counsel. Next, let's test your understanding with a quick question. Quiz time. Which best describes material misrepresentation in this context? Option A, a harmless clerical error on an application. Option B, a false statement that could affect the government's eligibility decision. Option C, any mistake, even if it is trivial and unrelated. Option D, a misprint caused by a scanning error. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Material misrepresentation involves a false statement significant enough to influence the government's decision regarding an immigration benefit. Now, let's move into safer first steps if someone is already in this situation. If you find yourself in this position, first consult a qualified immigration attorney who understands potential criminal exposure. Pause any new filings that could worsen the situation. Consider record requests to see what the government already has. Preserve all evidence, including timelines, emails, and tax records. Do not make any new false statements, including backdating or altering documents. If your attorney advises, prepare a truthful sworn statement under their guidance. Finally, have a candid discussion with counsel about the risks of denaturalization and criminal liability. To further organize the complexities, let's map the risk areas. This mind map centers on the initial false statement during naturalization. One branch covers the IR-1 petition with document mismatches, likely requests for evidence or notices of intent to deny, and denial risk. Another branch addresses citizenship, including denaturalization and exposure to removal. The criminal branch highlights fraud statutes, the role of intent, and penalties. The tax branch includes filing status mismatches and potential audits. Finally, the strategy branch outlines counsel engagement, pausing filings, record requests, and preserving evidence. Now, another quick quiz to reinforce a critical myth. Second quiz. Can you fix the timeline problem by getting remarried to the same spouse with a new date? Option A, yes if both spouses agree. Option B, yes if a local clerk issues a new certificate. Option C, no, it is impossible and constitutes new fraud. Option D, only if you later disclose the first marriage. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is C. You cannot remarry someone you are already married to, and attempting to procure a new certificate with a false date is a new and separate fraud. Now, let's capture the core takeaways. Here are the key points. Material misrepresentation is a serious falsehood that can change the outcome of an immigration decision. The IR-1 filing will expose timeline contradictions between the marriage record and prior sworn statements. Denaturalization and criminal exposure are real risks. Adding more deception will not help, and typically worsens outcomes. Finally, consult specialized counsel and pause actions before increasing your exposure. Next, let's summarize the entire discussion. In summary, a lie during naturalization can jeopardize both your spouse's IR-1 petition and your own citizenship. Government cross-checks make concealment an unsound strategy. The most constructive move is to address the underlying problem with experienced counsel, avoid compounding the issue, remain honest going forward, and preserve records to understand exactly what is in your file. As we close, I have a quick Markdown reference you can screenshot. Here is a brief Markdown reference to screenshot. It lists common red flags such as requests for evidence, fraud referrals, and potential IR-1 denials. The tip reminds viewers to preserve timelines and consult counsel before responding to any government notice. Core terms include material misrepresentation, denaturalization, and the concept of good moral character. Finally, let's close out the video. Thank you for watching. If this was helpful, please like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more clear breakdowns. Comment with your questions, and tell us what topic you want us to unpack next.